But it's true.
Welcome back to another episode of the Four Archetypes. As you can hear the laughter in the background, Dr. Eric has rejoined us from his hiatus,
Yay!
and we are happy to have him back. Um, so today we thought we're missing Whitman today. He is preoccupied. I don't know what's up with Whitman, but we're missing him today. So he will be hopefully back next week. We really enjoyed his first episode with us. Okay. Dr. Eric.
Yes, sir.
The Chain Gang is here. They're back. They're back. Dr. Eric is back. Dr. Lisa's back. They're like in their chairs. No, Dr. Lisa's out in the woods. But anyway, they're close enough to their chairs that we can have a discussion today. So, Dr. Lisa, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
Dr. Eric, welcome back.
Yes, I would thank you. I would like to say welcome and join us along this road that we call our journey of life.
Yes, there we go. So today we thought we return to our story, which is JAMP and the resolution of the glitch. And just as FYI, we're going to have a book signing on April 1st in Seattle. It's a Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. And if you would like to join us, just RSVP at drlahab@gmail.com, drlahab@gmail.com, and I will send you all the information you need to know about that day. Okay. So I thought we'd start with chapter 5, Dr. Eric.
Yeah, I think Dr. Lisa has something she's going to share from chapter 5.
Yeah. Dr. Lisa, you wanna start us off?
Sure. And I kind of feel like maybe we should touch a little bit about where we left off.
Sure.
We've been talking about identifying what is a glitch. What does that glitch mean? Or how is that defined or recognized in our day-to-day? And I'm going to attempt my interpretation of the glitch.
Okay.
The glitch is can be presented as a recurring frame of mind.
Correct.
That can be persistent and not very flexible in how it is that it lets you process an event so that you can live a life of freedom and meaning, less fearful, feeling more confident in yourself and not so self-harm inflicting emotionally or physically, mentally, spiritually. And so when you find this overlay of echoes or things that happen in life that remind you or remind your sensory nervous system to react in a defensive way that's reflective of how you might have felt in the initial trauma, or you might be entering your glitch again. And so these things are things that hold us back to what we call freedom.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing definition of the glitch. You know, the glitch is exactly like you said. It's a closed loop. It keeps tripping over itself. So if it's like a blimp that keeps happening. You know, you're running, and you're like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And you stop doing it because you're telling yourself you can't do it. And so the more it occurs, the more it handicaps you, keeps you from moving forward. Just like you said, it holds you back. It's because you're stuck looking back. You're stuck at like looking over your shoulder. Oh, who's behind me? Okay, what do they want? Do they should I go back? Should I stay? Should I? So you never kind of reach the point where it's like, I need to let go of this. And if you think about letting go of it, it takes a more important meaning. It is like, it reminds you that, hey, you're nothing without me. Remember, I'm here. Remember, we're in this together. And that's part of the glitch, is like you start to believe that the broken part of you, or the part that was traumatized, or the part that wasn't able to digest the trauma, the part that's stuck in deep within the primal brain, the lizard brain, that part of you, that's what's pulling you back. And the more it pulls you back, just like you said, no forward movement.
Kind of like that record. You got that scratch in that one spot.
Yes.
You just
yeah.
And you're
so
just
the song
spinning
starts,
in place.
It starts, a long time ago. A long time ago. A long time ago. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Dr. Lahab and Dr. Lisa, in the science world, interestingly enough, there's something called universal glitches in that operate in the universe, and in the macro world, the universe, and in the quantum mechanic world.
Correct. Yeah.
The micro world.
Yeah.
And glitches occur when the laws of physics don't operate the way they normally do. And that's kind of what's happening in the glitch that this book talks about, is things aren't operating the way they're supposed to. And we need to understand how they are operating so that we can learn from them and then reverse the process.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that it doesn't just happen in our own emotional and mental states, but it happens in micro and universal states. Of course, and all of us are made up of the same things anyway.
Well, it's an energetic reaction, right?
Yeah.
So the energetic reaction is that it doesn't complete the loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't move forward.
The loop is broken. So every time I try to go through the loop, I start at the beginning again. And the beginning is where that problem started. And so the more glitches you acquire over time, the more complicated life becomes, because now I have to deal with multiple issues, not just one. And we call it like extreme anxiety. Like people who suffer from extreme anxiety, that's what they're suffering from.
Haven't I heard you, Dr. Lahab, call that at one point in time traumatic anxiety? Or is that something else?
Yeah, so the anxiety, the anxiety that comes, that's born from the trauma. The anxiety that's born from the trauma is related to the trauma. So it's always this heightened levels of anxiety. So it can be paranoia. It can be hyper alertness. It could be hyper anxiousness. It's everything. It's basically the heightened level of anxiety is when you basically, the live wire, that piece, that shard of trauma is activated. So the live wire is activated. So the primal brain is activated now, right? So my lizard brain is activated. So my anxiety level is that of extreme survival. And I don't need to be that anxious. My life is not being threatened in that way. But at this point, this is the anxiety from the trauma. So it is so heightened that I can't hear the other person talk to me. I can't listen to their words anymore, because I'm basically in a fight and flight state. And, you know, part of it is that I'm frozen, waiting to act. Like the next thing that's going to come to me is going to make me jump. But I shouldn't be in that state. Like in a state where, you know, you have decent running government, you have decent police force, you have decent neighborhoods where you shouldn't be terrified all the time. I mean, in some areas are, you know, the more hard-hit areas, the less police they have, the less civil structure they have, the poorer they are. Those states can occur. And that's just because of where you live. So that heightened anxiety is a safety mechanism. But for people who don't exist in those worlds, that heightened anxiety causes emotional and physical torment. So depending on how it is used, right? So if you are in a place where it's dangerous, that heightened anxiety is being used for something. Therefore, the energy is not wasted. You're not trapped by it. It's being used for something. It's like, oh yeah, it saves your life. Now, the problem is that as soon as I move from that environment, and this is what happens with veterans of wars, when they move from that environment to an environment where, you know, it's like a civil environment, where we have functional society. And when we have functional society, that heightened paranoia becomes a tripwire.
Triggers are everywhere.
Yeah, but it's a tripwire for them because now they hear a loud sound, they're reacting to an ambush. They hear a siren, they're reacting to planes dropping bombs. You know, it's like your radar is completely thrown off.
Even in personal,
go on.
Yeah, even in personal relationships, when someone is trying to connect with them emotionally, feeling wise, even in a very caring way, it makes them feel they've had to cut off from feeling vulnerable to other people so long to remain in survival mode that even caring outreach from someone else is threatening to them. It makes them feel unsafe because they have to give up control of their hyper alert and hyper arousal state.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't turn it off. It's not just giving it up. You can't turn it off. Turning it off is not really an option for you because it turns itself on automatically.
Thank you. That's what I meant to say. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just summing up it, but it's a pattern. It becomes a pattern. And it becomes a pattern, and that pattern has a glitch because that pattern is no longer needed. So what is the glitch? The glitch is that the pattern is not needed. It goes online when it's not needed. What is the pattern? The pattern is I go into an extremely defensive state, and I think people are coming after me. So that's the pattern. So why is that coming online? I'm not in a war zone. So for somebody who is traumatized, that pattern is on. And that's why it becomes so difficult, right?
Which leads us.
Yes.
So identifying that pattern is huge. And a lot of people can't identify their triggers after some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be things that their mom said. It could be experience like a war zone. It could be certain smells. Identifying them is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And from there, the next steps are, how do we get away from it? How do we move away from our glitches?
Yeah. And it's difficult, right, Dr. Lisa, because a lot of the glitches have associated events around them. So it's not just what our mom said, but where we were at the time, how our feeling state was. So if we were really vulnerable, then that vulnerability comes through the door. Now it's not just what the words, it's the feeling state. So the body becomes an anchor for the fear, for the anxiety, for the ill effects. So that's why people suffer from phantom pains. Well, they're not phantom pains. They're tied into the feeling state, right? So it's like I start feeling pain in my chest or in my stomach or in my back, or, you know, when I think of things. And it's like, well, you know, at first I could identify it. When I think of things, then I start feeling pain. Then after a while, I'm just feeling pain all the time. I can't identify it. I can't identify point of origin. And we need to identify point of origin, because point of origin has the solution, right? It's like the poison that you need from the snake after it bites you. The solution is in the poison. In the point of origin, there is the solution. Right? But we have to get to the origin point. And the problem is over time, because of all of the associated experiences with the trauma, the real part, the fragments, those shards of living tissue that get activated are hidden under a lot of muck.
So let's go there. Let's go to chapter 6.
Okay.
We're there.
Let's do that.
In chapter 6, called "The Fracture in Time," we start to you and Christy start to discuss how glitches manifest themselves in a somatic way. Right?
Yeah, they start showing up in the body. I start having a limp, even though there's nothing wrong with my leg. I don't even notice that I have a limp, even though there's nothing wrong with my leg. My brain doesn't think I'm doing anything wrong, even though there's nothing wrong with my leg. So on multiple levels, I am disassociated from the pain, the limp in my leg, and why it's occurring. And so it speaks of whatever happened to me is making me limp through life. I haven't dealt with it. So I'm limping along. Think of it that way. So you're limping along. You're not moving. You're not walking along. You're limping along. So you're dragging your pain and your suffering with you through the limp. So at first it was an idea, a thought, well, you know, I'm going to deal with it. I'm just going to drag it along. Now you said it like a spell that manifests itself inside of you. Now you said it to yourself. Yeah, I'll just drag myself along. Now you're literally dragging your leg along because you're limping. But you don't remember the point of origin. So what happened? Why do you have a limp? Where did the limp come from? I don't know, you know, in 2012, I was running, I fell. No. 2012 is 2023, and you're still limping. That's just, no. 11 years, no. I mean, unless, you know, unless it's physically, there's a huge physical injury, that injury should have healed. You fell, okay. But what is psychological? What is the story? What story do we tell, Dr. Lisa? The story that we tell about dragging ourselves along is our psychological reality, right? So we talk about this in our stories. We talk about in the stories that we interpret of what is our psychological reality. Our psychological reality is our physical reality. I'm tired. Okay, that means I'm not moving very much. but tiredness explains away why I'm not moving very much. But actually, they're both tied emotionally. You're laughing, Dr. Lisa. Speak.
I've had that conversation with myself.
Yeah. Well, it was the
tired.
same.
Yes,
I
I'm
was
not
just
moving.
I was like
well,
talking to
I'm
myself.
tired. I'm not moving, so I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically a spell you put on yourself.
Yeah. If there is no physiological or neurophysiological reason for our body to be tired, and we've gotten the proper amount of sleep for ourselves, then what is causing the tiredness is something emotional, spiritual, energetic wise, whatever word you want to use. It's caused by something that we're not processing or working through or living through in a successful fruitive kind of way. It's coming from something that is hanging on, and it's a glitch. It's coming from a glitch.
Correct. Yeah. And that is the vibrational movement that pushes us back. So if Dr. Lisa gave the record example, in the record player will jump back before the glitch. So every time it hits the glitch, it jumps back and starts the song over. Right? And if you leave it there, it'll do that all day. It'll just keep doing it over and over again. We'll sing the same lines over and over again.
You remain a prisoner of the past.
That's right. And you relive it like it's today. Not yesterday, it's today.
Yeah.
So the repeat of the song is like, no, you've never heard the song before. You've never heard these words. But no, I've been singing them for a long time. No.
Yeah. Good example, Dr. Lisa.
So this is how we are pulled back vibrationally. Just like the record. We're like pushed back. Now, as we're pushed back, we're back in that state of I can't. And then you start to say things like, I can't get past it. I can't fix it. I can't. It's not fixable. It's not, and so the negative aspect of it starts because this is all creation. So healing is a creation. Do I believe I could heal? Yes, no. The more I believe I could heal, the more healing occurs because I'm open to it. I'm accepting of the process. And that's a huge thing, especially when you're in treatment. You have to open yourself to the process, the possibility that you actually could feel better. Just opening yourself to the possibility is enough to stimulate the healing factor within you. That vibrational energy that helps you move past this glitch.
It's a series of small steps that get you away from your glitch and identifying with it. And I'd love to read this passage from chapter 5.
Yeah, go for it.
About the glitch. You begin to rationalize the trauma and feel as though maybe everyone is like this in a relationship. Maybe your parents are just living a normal life and you're the one who's too sensitive. More importantly, you become so accustomed to this drama that your life feels strange and empty without it. You emit this homing beacon for drama in your life, and you don't feel balanced until a fight of some sort, internally or externally with other people, until that fight has cropped up in your life. This is no longer survival mode. This is identity attachment to the glitch. So this passage just kind of showed me how the glitch becomes intimate with us And at some point, we need to identify it and then realize the other parts of the glitch, and identifying with it. Eric, you pointed out that passage. Can you help me find that passage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can read it if you'd like me to.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Sure.
I was just thinking about it as you were talking. This is related to people who have experienced trauma. This is some of the effects that trauma has upon people, how they respond to their past and their glitch. One of the predominant problems of our generation isn't that we are excessively downtrodden, but that we have this false belief that life is meant to be easy. When we encounter trauma, pain, and strife, we think that our lives have gone wrong. This in itself can become a part of our shadow or unknown other that acts as a foot soldier for the glitch. When you accept this, you simply view the next hurdle as a naturally occurring event. The glitch doesn't have the emotional fuel then to send you into rumination. Doesn't have the power to trip you up on your journey and distract you from the staircase ahead or above. The drama addict in you is going to want to cast out more and more of this past pain, and all that does is make the unknown other bigger and bigger. My God, what a great chapter that is.
Yeah, so we end up doing what? We end up embracing our pain.
Yes.
And adding fuel to that fire.
Yes. Now we sit in a semicircle and we praise it. We tell stories about it. Did I tell you about my trauma? Have I told you? It's so the glitch.
One of my favorite pages in the book, Dr. Lahab. Thank you very much for it. And Christy.
The extension of the extension of this idea that how do we live without it? How do we define ourselves without our pain, our glitches? Because basically what you're doing is you're giving up patterns of being, acting, behaving, believing. The more layers of patterns you shed, the freer you are. This is the trick. This is the trick of individuation. It's actually the more you shed, the more individuated you become. Because you're carrying layers and layers and layers of the drama that comes from the trauma. And so you've become an actor in this play. You don't know you're an actor in this play. That's the glitch. You don't realize that you're stuck in this play.
And interestingly enough, that this is something that Christy, the other author of the book, has really helped me with. And that is understanding that the pain and suffering that you've gone through, that I've gone through from my traumatic events, are able to help me rather than hurt me. If I give them the power, they'll hurt me. If I don't, they can help me. I can learn from them. I can grow from them. I can move beyond them. I can embrace something new in myself that they have kept me from embracing. And I don't mean to sound morbid, but I think about it, especially in the Western world. Western civilization is horrible with this idea of me, and with our individualistic cultural norms and standards.
Let's get back to what you were saying. I think this is a really important point that you're bringing up, Dr.
Go.
And I think that what what you're saying is that the process of becoming whole and holding on to certain things at the same time are a contradiction. We can't hold on to what we carry because what we carry weighs us down.
Yes.
Therefore, to be free of it, we cannot carry it any longer. And therefore, it's a symbol. And this is what we use Jungian advanced motor processing for. It's a symbol that needs to be integrated into long-term memory. This happened to me. I survived this trauma. I survived this type of abuse. And I've learned how it's affected me and how that effect has translated into different difficulties in my life. At the same time, it has given me a perspective on my existence and an empathy to identify with those who have gone through similar circumstances in a way that is profound because of my experiences in life.
I like that. Yeah, the event becomes less significant. The people involved, or what they become less significant. And like as you and Christy said in your book, the focus shifts from them or that event to yourself. And you're no longer coupled with the glitch or that trauma.
Yeah.
You're not defined by it anymore.
I just rewatched a movie that I hadn't seen in probably 20 years called The Mission with Robert De Niro. He had killed his brother. He was enslaving Native Americans from the country of Paraguay in the Amazon jungle. And once the guilt hit him and the shame, he felt like there was nothing, that he wasn't worthy of any salvation at all. And he carried on a rope all of his war stuff up the mountains with this guy to help him serve the very people that he enslaved. And it just kept holding him back and holding him back. And eventually one of the tribe of the people who he had helped enslave came up to him and took a knife and cut the rope, and all of his armor and war machinery fell down the ravine. And they started laughing in joy at him as he cried, and then eventually started feeling the joy of having all of that be released from him. And it was released by the very people that he had harmed.
Yeah.
Unbelievable moment in cinema.
So to be forgiven, right?
What is the
biggest thing that you could do is to forgive self. The biggest thing you could do is forgive self for being in pain, for suffering, for anger, because forgiveness is letting go. When you forgive, you let go. You don't hold on anymore. And healing is all about, as you very eloquently put it in that movie, is about letting go.
Yes.
What he could not do psychologically, they did for him.
Yes.
They cut the rope that held him in his pain, in his suffering.
And we need others to help us do that.
Yes. So this is part of the healing process. Part of the healing process is forgiveness. This is a very important part. I want everybody to be able to remember this part, because you need to forgive self.
And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because, forgive me, but I needed Lahab, his wife, Sarah, Lisa, and Christy. Those are the four people at the highest level help me to let go. But they had to cut the rope, because I was hanging on to it.
But you always know that it's an invisible rope, Dr. Eric.
Yes, but I was hanging on to it.
It's an imaginary rope.
But I was
the
hanging
only
on to
way
it.
I could cut it is that you believe that I could cut it. Without your belief that I could cut it, it's never cut.
But without having people that believed that they could cut it and wanted to cut it,
yes,
and believed in me enough to cut it, I don't know if I would have believed that, Lahab.
Well, yeah, I understand. This is why we talk about Jungian advanced motor processing and how it helps people cut those invisible ropes that keep us imprisoned, that keep us tied down, that keep us from moving, that keep us in a state of pain and suffering. Is that bondage?
Yeah. And I
I
apologize for the emotions, but this is I'm only 2 years away from this.
Forgive self.
Yeah, I'm only 2 years away from this.
This is an important point we're trying to make.
And I just wanted to reach out to people out there who were listening, who were in the same place that I was. That's my only point in sharing.
No, absolutely no. Forgive self is an important lesson that we all have to learn. Forgiveness towards one's own feeling state is very important. You're expressing your feeling state. That's a very important thing. We have to learn how to express our feeling state without fear.
Also, I also like Eric's message of saying having a support in the belief that it can be done.
Yes.
Showed him that he can do it himself. And we all need a network, and we all need people. It'd be incredible to do it on your own.
Yeah.
But even the ones who are alone get through some with some mentorship or support and
yes, definitely.
Well said, Lisa. Thank you.
Reach out. Don't be alone.
Don't be alone. I like that.
Reach out to friends, family, to acquaintances. Reach out. It's better to have people around you who remember you, talk to you, think about you. We're social animals. We don't live a separate existence. We live within the community. We live within the groups. We rely on each other for a lot of things. There's nobody who's an island. We're just not. We need each other for a variety of things. And what Dr. Eric, I think, the strongest part of the message is that we need support from our friends, the people around us, our families. We need support from them. So ask for support. Don't be shy.
Yes.
And this has been a great session with you guys. I've had a wonderful time.
Oh,
thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa. We always have a great time with you too, by the way. Okay. Shall we talk about one more thing before we head out this week?
Sure.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Let's go to chapter 8. Dr. Eric, would you like to read the quote?
Yes, I do have a quote in chapter 8.
Yeah.
Because now we're getting into what can we do, to break the bond and break the power, as the book so vividly describes, of the glitch reaching up while we're trying to walk up the escalator, or the
spiral.
The spiral ladder.
The spiral, staircase.
Yeah. Okay, it says, after all, there are times, this is rather than reacting to the person directly out of self-defense. I'm not talking about life-threatening things, but just when people aggravate you, insult you, are being jerks or whatever. After all, there are times when it would be best to breathe through your trigger and not address someone who seems unstable for your safety and those of the people around you. And then it refers to the desensitization that JAMP allows you to learn how to desensitize this trauma without undergoing the discomfort of the scenario. Mm. And what I wanted to say about that is, after I had received a number of JAMP sessions, I was driving down the road and something triggered me that normally does when I'm driving down the road. And I went, oh my gosh, why am I feeling all this? I thought I was past this. In fact, I have been past this. Why is it coming back? I got on the phone with Dr. Lahab a day after, and I explained the situation to him. And he said, you weren't reliving it. All that was doing was triggering the imagery and the symbolic imagery and interactions that you had before, and you just gave into it, when all you needed to do is say to yourself, I've already gotten past this. This no longer has power over me. And yet I'm allowing it to. And then after that discussion, I got back into the car again, drove down the same stretch of road, got triggered by the same hypnotic response that I had for so many times before. And I said what he had told me had happened and said, and it just melted away as if it never even occurred. And I realized then at how much power my past imagery has on me if I accept it as it is bearing upon my present reality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Perfectly. Mm-hmm. Perfectly.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to give example of what you wrote of what you and Christy wrote.
That's powerful and moving, Eric. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, that was very much so. I think we could actually end this episode on that note. We're giving you pieces of the content, so you could think about the different ideas in different parts of the content. I know we use the term JAMP a lot, and I've been told by our new marketing strategist that it doesn't mean anything to people outside of our circle. So we're going to have to start to explain Jungian advanced motor processing as a treatment for anxiety and for trauma, and a treatment that works relatively quickly. It works effectively. It resolves several issues. It's not psychotherapy. So to be in treatment and to have long-term treatment, then what you're doing is basically blending in psychotherapy with the treatment itself. Well, that's long-term JAMP treatment. So it becomes like a more psychotherapeutic treatment. But
it also, Dr. Lahab, if I may just interject real briefly, it also has incredibly powerful neuroscientific evidence for what happens in the brain during the sessions.
Yes.
I spent a year studying it.
Yes.
That's why I engaged in it, because I wanted to make sure that science supported it. And it not only did it support it, it explained how it works.
Well,
how it rewires the brain.
Yes. So the process that you're going through is a process of rebooting your brain. So if we use different terminology, we're keep rebooting. Every time you reboot, what you're getting to is whatever their glitches, that's why you reboot, right? So if you reboot a computer, because everybody has some form of digital device using a phone, what do they tell you to do? Turn it off, unplug it, plug it back in, turn off the power. And so basically what they're telling you is to reboot it. So the treatment itself is a rebooting of the CPU, which is our central brain, basically. But it also changes our tolerance for the world. Where if our tolerance was right next to us, where we're really irritated very quickly, our tolerance gets a little further away. So the more we do the treatment, the further our tolerance becomes, which means that no longer is the irritation so close to me that I feel it in the energetic field. It's far enough away from me because my field has grown. My conscious field that I see, that I observe, has grown. And therefore, those things that used to make me were prickly are no longer there. They seem insignificant now. You're smiling, Dr. Lisa. Is there something you wanted to?
Yeah, there's a progression. Is like the first in the early stages, it sabotages you and possesses you.
Yeah.
Later on, it's just a creeper and it creeps up on you and you have a spider sense, and then it's something, and then you react.
Yeah.
Later on, you have this awareness like, oh, this kind of looks like something, and then you fall back in.
Yeah.
But the distance, the purview gets farther and farther away.
That's right. Yeah.
So at some point,
yeah,
you're, like you said, it takes a lot longer, or it
Yeah.
doesn't reach you that closer, that harsh,
Yeah.
or it doesn't jump on you.
Yeah, no, that's a beautifully said. It basically, this is that. So your lens, the way you see the world, is basically cracked. So you're experiencing these things in your physical body, in your essence. So then you start to see the world through this feeling state of how things are moving through. So the more the treatment goes along, the more these things become further and further and further away, just like Dr. Lisa said.
I think the biggest long-term lasting effect it's had on me is that it allows me to live in the present rather than in the past or the future. I'm able to live in the present. The old saying that you can stop and smell the roses, that's what I'm talking about. You can sit on your porch and, listen to the birds and enjoy it. You can look at the trees, you can look at the wind, you can be by yourself and not feel chaotic and not feel anxious and just enjoy existing.
Yeah. And that sounds simple, but it's exactly the way you described it. It's like when you're by yourself, you feel completely chaotic. You feel like you're out of control. So that state is so disruptive to everything you view, everything you see, everything you feel, even those people who you want to connect with. You're in such a state that you basically scare them off. They start to look at you and it's like, what's wrong with this person? Because it's that feeling state that's holding you. It's possessing you. Yeah.
It's what some yogis spend decades achieving. That state of nirvana, that state of alhambra, that state of just being able to exist in the present moment and enjoy the creation that you're a part of and is a part of you. And you can feel a part of it. You feel like you understand what the tree is made out of.
And you belong.
And that you belong in its midst. It's an incredible feeling. I don't live there 24 hours a day, but the hours that I do live there, are precious and are appreciated and are enjoyed and are deeply valued and make me feel like it's okay to be alive and I have a purpose of being here.
That's a perfect ending to our story today. Thank you for being with us. We are the 4 Archetypes, and we are not afraid.
We are not afraid.
We're not afraid. We're not afraid.
See you next week, everybody.